Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by Deck Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And the Pittsburgh Steelers have an official 2023 schedule now. We knew the opponents, we knew where, but we didn't know the when, and now we do. We will talk in depth about all that, whether you like the schedule, whether you don't. I mean, we'll dive into it. Plus a little bit of talk on Arthur Maulet. That was kind of a sudden release. I didn't see that coming quite so quickly, but we'll dive into that as well. And you'll notice that the talented Mr. Scarpizio is here. Ian is likely dealing with a child not to bed yet, and Ben is I don't know, he's at some show tonight or something. I don't even know what the hell it was. And good evening to our wonderful studio audience as well. Is that what you call it? A studio? They're not really in a
Something
studio,
like
but
that.
they're an audience. What the hell? Welcome in, everybody. Good to have you. And Super Bowl champs already. Yeah, you're not kidding. It's what we do. It's what we do. Yeah, that is for sure. Scarps, how are you tonight?
I'm here, man. I am here.
Oh, yeah.
I am
Been
here.
one of those weeks.
It's been one of those. I don't know. He's 5 weeks on Saturday. It's just been a wild ride, man. And I don't think
Oh,
it's ever not going to be a ride.
let
It's
me
been
tell you,
fun though.
it is a constant ride. There will be ups, there will be downs, there will be lots of straightaways, there will be some curves. Uh,
I mean, it's pretty much like a Steelers game.
uh
every,
Absolutely,
every
yes,
Steelers Sunday for the
yes.
past 2 seasons.
No, that's a really great way to put it. It is, and yeah. What are you drinking there tonight?
Uh, Lagunitas. Uh, Hazy Wonder. I don't know. They got dogs on all their cans, and I have 2 dogs and
Beautiful.
love pups. It's pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah,
Lagunitas.
I'm a big fan of the hazy IPAs, man. They're good.
Yeah, I never used to be, but I've broadened my horizons a little bit.
Well, same
Cut it to
here.
myself. But
Yeah, no, you just do over time. You just try a few things, and there you go. But I'm got my redemption rye again tonight. I was so
ooh,
impressed with it last week. I'm just sticking with it tonight. I got a couple of Bell's Two Hearteds under here if the mood should strike. But and I believe Ian has put a new keg in his
that's
kegerator
right.
tonight. Maybe that's what he's doing. He can't get it tapped or something. I don't know. Scarps, go ahead. Give me just your initial thoughts. We'll go through it game by game, where, when, all that stuff. But when you saw this percolating throughout the day,
Yeah.
what are your overall thoughts?
Well, I mean, as the leaks started to come in, I just started stacking W's, and we're looking at 20-0. It's just plain and simple.
Why even play the
Why?
games?
I
Yeah.
all right. As you all know, I'm a dick. You know, I said this the other day to my friend. I said, their home schedule this year just really isn't that great. And if you look at it, it's not terrible.
Mhm.
But I think that with Rodgers going away, that Packers game to me is nothing. The Patriots don't have Brady anymore. Um, so some of the names on the schedule, to me, just aren't that great. And in my opinion, I think the 49ers was probably their best home game. And good to see them, actually starting the season at home. It's been
Yeah.
almost 10 years.
Yep.
Um, but I guess I'm a little, you know, their best home game is their first home game. and
No, it is.
and I
And
don't I don't like starting the season against an NFC team that you're never going to see unless you get to the Super Bowl, or you play them in like they're doing right now.
mhm.
Um, that is a really, really good defense, and I know the Steelers have had some credit in Week 1, and anything can happen in Week 1, but that's a really, really good defense. Um, yeah, Yeah, Big Wins over
Well,
Jacksonville at home. That's the other thing too. Like when you look at the schedule, there's some teams on here that have been Steelers kryptonite. You got the Jaguars.
yes.
They're playing at the Raiders. That usually never ends never
No.
well. Um, I think the biggest thing though is that they're starting the season at home. It's been a long time. They actually started the season at home 2 weeks in a row. That
Yeah.
hasn't happened in like almost
I
25 years.
I
Late.
think it's been over 20 years. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just not wild about that starting at home against at 1 o'clock on Fox. Like the Steelers on Fox, just
I
I
know it feels like weird.
yeah,
I
and I joke like I do a mock schedule every year, and I
same.
usually I only ever get maybe one right. I got 4 right this year, and I'm very
Hey,
proud.
I
But if you
think you're
go
doing
back and
better than
look,
me.
I had those first 4 correct, except first 4 a little bit out of order, but I had them opening up against Cleveland and then
Okay.
Frisco third game because I didn't expect them to get 2 home games, but they got sorry, Steel Dad, if you want to just tell me to
No,
shut up,
you're fine. You go ahead.
please let
We'll
me
go.
know. But I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, 2 back-to-back primetime games in weeks 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Um, 2 Thursday night games, which, I'm gonna tell you this right now. Thursday night games are shit. I didn't
Yep.
like them when I worked there. I don't like them now. Um, they're quick turnarounds. What's
Yes.
up, Ian?
Ian
And
is Ian is with child as well.
uh-oh, beautiful.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
We figured you were just trying to tap the keg, but looks like you got more important things there.
Yeah, she's a little unhappy, so I'm gonna stay on mute for
Yeah,
a
you
bit.
just stay right on mute there. Thanks, Ian. Yeah. Go ahead. You're talking about the Thursday nighters.
yeah, some Thursday night games and then um 3 straight home games is nice. That's probably, in my opinion, that's
Yeah.
probably their best stretch of the season. 3 straight home
Yep.
games.
Late October and then 2 in November. Yep.
The Jaguars being right now the Jaguars being the best team on paper. Um, yeah, I don't know. And then I look at those final 3 weeks. You got the Bengals on Saturday, which is a standalone game. Then you got
Yes.
at Seattle and at Baltimore. At Seattle on New Year's Eve. That's a bitch. I mean, we
It
went there
yeah.
2015, and I'd never been to Seattle, but it was so late in the year that like we left when it was dark, and we got this we got to Seattle when it was dark.
Yeah.
And, like, I just remember, like, going to team meal, getting, like, a bite to eat, getting it to go, and going to my room and, like, sleeping because there's nothing else to do. Like, we stayed in the middle of nowhere. It was dark. It was foggy. And, like, I'm like, "I'm not going. Like, where am I supposed to even go?"
Isn't
Um,
it always that way in Seattle?
Actually, Pittsburgh has more cloudy days per year than Seattle does.
No shit.
Yes, true story. True
Wow.
story.
I know we're
Yes,
very cloudy here in my neck of the
yes.
woods, but wow. Um, well, I will echo your sentiments on just in just talking about these initial thoughts. I immediately went to the end. I mean, that's just a bitch. Cincinnati at home, and then you got to go to Seattle, come back, and go to Baltimore. I don't care if Eddie Vedder is playing quarterback for the Seahawks. I I, I don't care who's playing for the Ravens the last week. Those are tough games. They're road games. They're always going to be tough. Pete Carroll out there, his teams always play hard. We know what John Harbaugh's teams do when they play us. It's not a secret. Those are going to be tough games, and so it really makes you kind of go back and focus like on that stretch of 3 home games in the middle, those early home games, and this is a young team. They need to get some W's under their belt right away because man, it's going to be a tall task to try to get some wins on the road in the second half of the season. So those are my thoughts. But just real quick for those who maybe haven't seen this yet, the preseason schedule is set, and of course they'll play just the 3 games. And because they have the 9th game at home this year, they'll play 2 on the road in the preseason. They'll be at the Buccaneers. That kicks off August 11th. Then they get the Bills at home on a Saturday, and then they'll be at the Falcons on a date to be determined for the final.
No Carolina game this year.
No, exactly right, Ian.
You know,
I was stunned to see that.
I know it's the same time zone, but like, those are a couple hour flights too. Like, I hate to be that person because there are definitely people that believe that like everyone's always against the Steelers. Um, but like, it's there's a couple odd things, and then like I know we're talking. I know this is the Steelers podcast, but did you see that
Right.
fucking the Giants? They
That
got
was nuts.
it was true, and like, oh my god, all day it was just like it was like all day it was a bunch of like it was like it's a bunch of girls in high school, just like high school drama today, just like
Yeah.
talking shit on one another, and everybody's trying to figure out like what's real and what wasn't. And we were talking, and I'm like looking at this Giants schedule. I'm like, there's no
Right. It
way,
was hard to believe.
and it was, and I'm sitting there thinking like, you know out of all the tools that you have in the toolbox to try to figure out the schedule, I mean, if even hell, you could have did a better job if you threw it in Chat GPT. Like, like how do you do that? How do you do that to the job? I just don't get it. Like, I'm not saying you have to take, you have to play favorites, but like there should be every team should be favored the same way when you're creating this schedule. So.
You would think, and I started to wonder, is like does Taylor Swift have a residency going there at the Met or something like that? And then I started to think, well, the Jets are there too, so, and they're not as bad off. But
Aaron Rodgers, Taylor Swift, not too different.
a lot of drama.
Both extra.
Yes, a lot of drama. But Ian, the Steelers will open with the Niners. I've got my opinion on that game. What's yours as the home opener for the first time since 2014?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough game against a good team that was in the playoffs last year. I don't hate it though. They've got a big question mark at quarterback, but it'll be a good matchup to see how we match up against a team that schemes very well, because the hallmark of the 49ers success has kind of been whoever plays quarterback for them is able to succeed because of the system they run offensively.
Yeah.
And they've got a good, tough defense. They were a playoff team last year. So it's, it's a good matchup to start the season, and, win or lose, we get the opener at home. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, I don't know. I'm glad we have the opener at home, but as I was looking at our home opponents, I was like, who do I want in the opener? Like, if we get it at home, I was like, I kind of thought it might be New England, to be honest, but I was kind of like, I don't know. There's really no good option here, right? It's I kind of thought maybe it'd be divisional, but they try to save those Baltimore games for a little bit later, typically. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think the San Francisco game, if you're going to have to play them, that's actually not a terrible time to have to play them because of the uncertainty at quarterback. You get the home crowd. It's going to be a fired up home crowd. I mean, it always is for a home opener, but it seems like this year there might be a little extra juice there. Scarps.
Yeah. Fucking like Ben logs in.
Yeah.
Even though, like, listen, man, if you're, I'm just, I don't even have I don't even have the energy to deal with you right now, Ben.
You know what?
No, peace
Ben
and love,
was so starved for Steelers football and Matt Canada's offense that he went to see a band called the Super Suckers tonight, who apparently Matt Canada writes for during the off season.
That's what it was. The Super Suckers.
He's their promoter. I'm a sucker for like nostalgia and whatnot, and I said that I didn't like that. I don't want to open up against an NFC team ever. And you know what? They literally could have went Jaguars or Titans in week 1, and I would have been fine with it because you still have the old AFC Central ties. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just feel like I don't. Again, I don't know. I don't know what the appeal is for a 1 p.m. Fox game with the 49ers.
I think the appeal, Ryan, has nothing to do with the Steelers or the 49ers. I think the appeal has to do with the other games. So, because as we know, every week the NFL tries to put different teams in spotlight games as much as possible. Obviously, there are outliers with that when you have teams that just absolutely suck and aren't big draws. But I think when you look at, you've obviously got the Thursday night opener, but then you've got, I think, Dallas Giants is the Sunday night game that week, opening week.
Dallas and Giants play every fucking Sunday night. I swear to God.
It feels that way, doesn't it?
every
So I
week.
think we're just kind of a sideshow in week one.
So
for the networks.
You know what? I got a lot on my mind. So then why not make that against Tennessee then? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I just I don't know. I just think that's what maybe the people on the West Coast wanted a nice brunch. I don't know. It's a 1 o'clock
well, that's
game.
what I'm saying. That's the other thing too. Is like it's 10 there.
Yeah.
And, I mean, since Ben is engaged tonight, what's it like watching the Steelers play at 10 o'clock in the morning?
Well, he's had like 12 mimosas by the time they kick off. So. Well, after that, they again, as we mentioned, they play home again, and it's again the first time they've had back-to-back home opening games. I think roughly in 20 some years, and it's the Browns, and it's a Monday night.
I was a little surprised by that one because I think the Pirates are home that weekend, but the Monday night wouldn't interfere with the Buccos schedule. So
right, and that becomes even bigger if the Buccos, and I'm going to knock on wood here, are like in the race.
They're not going to be in the race. Speaking of the Super Suckers, they're 1-9 in their last 10.
Oh, I haven't been paying attention. I thought they were doing so well.
They were in April.
Never want to peak in April. But they've got that, and then of course they go for their first road game, which is also going to be a primetime game. That's going to be out at Vegas. Our first trip out there to Sin City, and as we've alluded to, we know how the Steelers play when it's at the Raiders, and recent trips out there, it never seems to go well.
And that's a tough turnaround from a Monday night to going on the road to Vegas. That's not an easy back-to-back.
No, and not only that, but you come back and then you go on the road again down to Houston. So I don't get me wrong, I like the first two opening games at home. I'll take it, but man, those two road games coupled with a couple of prime timers there. And then week 5, you got the first matchup with the Ravens. Second divisional game after the Browns there. Did that hold true today that the Bengals and the Browns will open against each other?
Yes.
It did. Okay.
Yeah. Although speaking of the Ravens have to play in Pittsburgh and then go over to Europe to play the Titans and then come back and play the Lions. They're one of the only teams that doesn't have a bye after a trip to Europe.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the team has that option, don't they? Don't they give the team the option when they play in Europe that they can have their bye immediately after, and if they don't want it, they don't have to get it? I think that was instituted a few years ago.
Yeah, they're back to back in London though.
No, that's the Jags.
The Jags are back to back.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about them. I thought you said them.
No, Ratbirds. Yeah.
They've got their schedule is not great either. Then they play Christmas night in San Francisco, and much like Ryan was saying earlier, the Steelers will be in Seattle on New Year's Eve to play Seattle, and that sucks. But yeah, I mean, playing in San Francisco, that's a long way from home for Christmas. But I don't know. So those are the openers. The bye week is week 6. I was hoping for something a little bit later. I'm not going to lie. You obviously take it when you get it, but when they come out of the bye, it'll be week 7. It'll be October 22nd, and they will be at the Los Angeles Rams. They have not played the Rams on the road since they were in St. Louis. So that'll be the first time there. And then they come home for that 3-game stretch, October 29th, November 2nd, November 12th. You got the Jaguars, Titans on a Thursday. and then the Packers at home for a 1 o'clock. So, and Ian, I forgot to ask you, were you pleased with the amount of 1 o'clock games? Because I know that's always a big thing for you.
It is. I was not thrilled by 2 home Thursday night games. That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But
that's
if it was up to me, we'd have like a couple home Sunday night games in like September, October, and all the rest will be home 1 o'clock games. But yeah, we got a good amount of 1 o'clock games in there. I will say having to go to Los Angeles right after the bye is probably the best possible scenario there, because you got a week off to kind of prepare for that trip. The one other thing I was kind of wondering about, and I don't think they ever did this before,
Mhm.
but I'm going to rely on Ryan for this one. So they're in Vegas and then in Houston back-to-back weeks. I know sometimes like East Coast teams will stay on the West Coast if they have back-to-back games, or West Coast teams will stay on the East Coast if they have
Right.
back-to-back games. Ryan, did they ever do that where they like stayed over somewhere, or do they always came home?
They always came home, and as far as I know, they have not changed that since I left.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I was trying to rack my brain today, and I was looking at this now. A scenario where we would have had something that far, and I can't remember. I remember in 2015 we went to Seattle. We also went to the Chargers when they were in
They were in that soccer
San
stadium, right?
Diego.
Yeah.
No, they were at Qualcomm still.
Okay. Was that the
So
game in Seattle that they tried that fake field goal with Landry Jones trying to throw a pass to
yeah,
Villanueva?
yeah,
Yes. It was
and
the
like
39-30 game, wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun as
That
hell,
was a
but
stupid game.
we lost.
Mhm.
But those weren't back to back. Those were whatever. They weren't back to back. All I remember is like the flights are just so long. Like it's like fucking 5 hours, and like it's just like that is a lot. So to your point, Ian, um, yeah, I don't know why they don't consider doing that. I know like the Saints. Don't the Saints have like their training camp like Greenbrier in West Virginia, some shit.
Yeah.
They have, yes.
But they have done that. They have done that recently, where like they'll play like 2 northern games in a
Mhm.
row, and they'll just go there for a week.
Yeah, I think they played like us in Cleveland back to back one year and stayed in
Yes,
West
yeah,
Virginia
I think it might have
between.
been literally this past year. Anyway,
Yeah.
but when we went to London in 2013, we left on like fucking Thursday afternoon, and we played a Sunday game. Like literally, like sometimes you got to be smart about it. So anyway, I don't know why they never did that. Whatever.
What is the standard operating procedure for teams when they go over there? I mean, do they go a couple days earlier than they normally would for an away game? I mean, what is that flight? About 6 hours?
I think it's 6, yeah.
Yeah.
London,
Yeah.
it was longer than 6. It was about 7,
Was
seven and
it?
a half. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we weren't on
Um,
the Concorde, like
yeah, um, I remember the Vikings got there. The Vikings flew there right after their Sunday game, because who'd we play?
We
Uh,
played the Vikings.
yeah,
we
but
played the Vikings there.
you know what? Then the week before,
We
yes,
played the Bears at home that
on
year and got
Sunday
blown
Night
out by them.
Football,
Yes.
the
Yes.
week before.
That was a bad game.
Yeah, because we were.
They returned like 3 fumbles for touchdowns that game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was awful.
That was the 0-4
we were
year. That's
0-4, yeah.
terrible. But I remember being like, "Fuck, the Vikings are already like there," and they stayed at this nice place, and like NFL Films covered both of our teams, and like we were still at like the Southside facility, and like they were at like some really nice place in like London, and I'm like, "Why the fuck are we still here? Like, what are we Like, what are we doing?" And like that team was not good. They had good names, but they just weren't good overall. Good memories, but oh, that was just so dumb. It was the dumbest thing ever. And then we left. We left right after the game. We had to get special clearance for that, because you weren't like for some reason you weren't allowed to leave right away, and like we got special clearance to like leave early. And I remember being like, so we come as late as possible and then we
Yeah.
leave as quickly as possible. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? And
I
like
mean,
I got like extra padded down, and like Lamar Woodley was
well,
like busting my balls, and then he got extra padded down. So like I laughed at him. I remember that. That was miserable. That was a miserable trip.
head coaches are such creatures of routine and
And
habit,
that's
and
exactly, and it's all, and that was 2013, and Tomlin still does the same shit. Yes,
yeah,
that is definitely creature of habit stuff.
yeah, and I get it, but I'm with you a little bit there. I think sometimes you got to adjust. So they'll take that trip to LA after the bye and play the Rams. And that'll be a 4 o'clock game out there. And then as we said, we got the 3 straight home games with the Jags. The first and last are 1 o'clock games, and then you got the Titans Thursday night game there. So the Steelers will get that so-called mini bye there, heading into the Packer game at home, and then really the stretch begins. If you really ask me, I mean, you get to November 19th, which you're talking week 11. You're at Cleveland, then you're at Cincinnati, back-to-back weeks, 1 o'clock games. And then you return home for the Cardinals in a 1 o'clock first week of December. And then the Patriots come in Thursday night again.
And I'll say, I don't like Thursday night games, but both of our Thursday night games are they're both at home and they're both after other home games. So
yes, they are.
There's no travel involved there. Plus, you mentioned the mini bye. Considering that our bye is one of the earliest in the league, like the first buys in the league are week 5, and ours is week 6. So we have one of the first bye weeks, but then we get the 2 Thursday games, which kind of give us 2 other like mini buys, like you said, in weeks 9 and 14. So we kind of almost have like 3 sort of bye weeks in there. Or at least with the mini buys, there's a couple other extended breaks later in the year.
Yeah, I think it's a good trade-off. If you're going to have the early buy, then it's nice to have those mini buys. And listen, you talk to the players, they love those. Now they'll tell you they hate the Thursday night games, but they look on the positive, the bright side, and they say, okay, then we get a couple days off. So it's a little give and take. There's no doubt about it. What were you going to say, Ryan?
No, yeah, like as much as Thursday night games sucked because you had to do all the work, but just in a shorter period of time. But like, regardless whether or not fucking you won or lost, you had the week. You didn't have the weekend off, but like it was a lot more low key, and that was always nice.
Is that week for you guys in the PR when you have a Thursday night game? Is that just like everything? You become like squirrels on caffeine, and you're just flying around the place. And
it's just more like you just got to cram. You have to cram everything in a short period of time. So Tomlin talks on Monday. Tuesday is coordinators. Wednesday's like the mock game, and there's no availability. So like in a way, it's nice that Wednesday you don't really have any media obligations, but on Monday you have open locker room and Tomlin. Tuesday you have coordinators and open locker room, etc. And the guys on Monday don't want to talk. The guys on Monday do not want to talk to the media because they just talked to the media Sunday after the game.
Right.
And I mean, there were definitely times when we would play like a Sunday night game, and then we played a Thursday night game at home, and literally and we did a good job. Like I don't think we had to by the rules do open locker room, but we did. And like literally, like the guys would be like, "Why are they in here? Like why are they in here again?" We just talked to them. I'm like, "Dude, like they got a job, you got a job. Like it's the way it is."
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like a lot crammed in, and I hate Thursday night football. I'm sorry.
You're right with I think the majority of Americans.
I will say this. Sorry, I'm talking a lot tonight. Don't care. Love you all. The last time the Steelers had a bye this early was 2020, and they won the division. I mean, they totally sucked.
It was 2010 or 2008, right? They had like a week 4 or 5.
No, 2020 12, they had a week 4 bye. They were 8-5, ended up 8-8. That was the only time under Mike Tomlin that they were eliminated before the final week.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yep. Which that's an incredible stat. Like for all else, like we've only had one game in the last 16 years that we weren't mathematically still in the hunt. Like that's an incredible run.
I mean, like the 2013 year, oh my god, we were we were so bad.
Yep.
0-4, 2-6, and then somehow I'll never forget Mike Esteva, if he's listening, bless his heart. Mike Esteva was the intern at the time, and I remember after we won, we beat the Browns at home, and then they fired a coach. Imagine that. We got back to the facility. Like I remember being like, I'm not doing any work until we find out if we're in the playoffs or not. And then we're sitting in the office, just like literally our lives depend on Ryan Suckup.
Oh yeah.
So as soon as you heard him hit the ball, I was like, he missed it, and it was. I'm like, wow, like fuck. But you think like it really is a game of inches, and it really is like like it's unbelievable how like even last year like the fucking Dolphins in that Jets game, which was the worst game probably of all time, and you're just like there's like if the Jets, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, in that 2013 year, if Antonio Brown doesn't step out of bounds against the Dolphins, on that.
Yeah,
there's that.
Or down as one of the great plays of all time.
There's that. Or they don't allow Ryan Tannehill and the Miami Dolphins to come to Pittsburgh and beat them in the snow.
Yes, that was embarrassing.
Even though Troy Polamalu had a pick 6 in that game, and they still lost.
Yeah, he also got thrown to the ground by that tight end. Was it Clay Charles Clay for the Dolphins?
That dude was good, man. That guy was a good hybrid guy. He played for the Bills too. Yeah.
Yeah. Just getting back to this, the Pats on that Thursday night game, December 7th, and then you got the last 4.
Ryan and I are reminiscing about past seasons. Mark's like,
I'm trying to keep us on track.
You have to talk about the schedule.
Here's a guy that has an agenda.
Now here's a guy that actually made an agenda. The Colts game week 15. Is one of the 2 that is quote unquote to be determined through the NFL's flexible scheduling stuff. So we're not real sure when that game's going to be just yet, but it'll be in Indianapolis. And then they come home for the home finale, which is a Saturday game, December 23rd, against the Bengals. And then you've got the trip to Seattle and the trip to Baltimore. And again, the Baltimore game is to be determined as well. Likely be my guess it'd be a 1:00 game, but if it's one of those games that's like for the division, then that's going to get bumped to the Sunday night. No doubt about it.
If we're playing the Ravens for the division on Sunday Night Football at the end of the year, I'll be fucking thrilled. Like,
oh, no doubt about it.
That's one of those, like, you get that Sunday night game, that means you're in some kind of big time game. And it's like, that's one of the ones where I know I always say like 1:00 in December is ideal, but that's the one game where I'm like, if you're in that Sunday night game, you've got something big to play for. So
it seems like it's always Dallas.
Yeah, well,
I mean, in recent years, it's always Dallas and the Giants, or
2014, we got flexed into Sunday night against the
Bengals. Yep,
we won that. But Reggie Nelson, was it? Yes, Reggie Nelson had a low hit on Le'Veon Bell, and that cost us next week. We signed Ben Tate off the street, who was one of my least favorite players to work with, and I worked with him for about 15 seconds. And Dree Archer. Remember Dree Archer got a handoff up the middle, and Terrell Suggs just fucking ate his lunch. It was unbelievable. Oh my god! I think there was like a collective laugh in the press box. Like it was like, God bless Todd Haley for that. Like he didn't have any other options though. Like it was fucking bad.
Right.
Ben Tate fumbled on his first carry too.
Oh, that's right. He did.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
That was a bad playoff game.
Yeah, that was one you could feel coming.
Well, and that was one too where we kind of overachieved a little bit during the regular season, and they had a bunch of veterans and we had a bunch of young guys and hadn't been to the playoffs in a few years, and the experience showed up there.
Yeah,
I think so too.
That overpaid Joe Flacco here.
Well, one of the things, and Scarps and I talked about this before the show. I do not understand people that make game by game predictions or season predictions. It's May 11th, people. I mean, there
And
is
we're going 17-0. Come on,
yeah,
Mark.
20 and
going to
0.
the
Get
Super
it
Bowl.
right.
Yeah,
23-0. Count the preseason, Ryan.
Oh yeah. Hey,
I
listen,
mean, it's just
listen.
it
Tom
drives me
Brady ain't
insane.
down there in Tampa Bay no more. All right, I'm putting $100K on the Steelers' first preseason game money
And
line.
I'm willing to bet somebody probably already has.
100K. I wish I had 100K. I'm putting a K on it.
No shit, right?
I need a beer. I'll be back. Love you all.
Yeah. Go ahead. Um, across the league, anything else stand out to you, Ryan? Or I'm sorry, Ian? Did you get a chance to look at anything?
Yeah. I mean,
I'll
I'm
be
really
back with
glad.
thoughts.
I'm really glad we're not playing in the Black Friday game. And I think that was probably kind of off limits because of the high school football championships at Heinz Field or
Yeah.
Acrisure, whatever the fuck.
And I hope that's the case. I really do hope that's the case. That somebody said no, that's our high school showcase. There, we're not bumping that.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I was kind of curious about today before the schedule came out was that, like how many primetime games we're going to get, because the Steelers' name is a draw, but arguably from a TV marketability standpoint right now, we've got the 12th best quarterback in the conference, maybe 20th in the league. Like, if you're marketing the Steelers, you're marketing TJ Watt, you might market Najee Harris. You're not marketing, Kenny Pickett doesn't have the marketing power that, Patrick Mahomes has, or even Aaron Rodgers has. Like the Jets got a ton of games because they've now got Aaron Rodgers. Just like last year, the Broncos got a bunch of games because they had Russell Wilson, and then the Broncos sucked. And like 4 weeks into the year, they're like, "Oh, this is bad. We've got like 4 more Broncos games in prime time, or at least
all bad
in slots," because they even put them on like Saturdays where they were the only game on, where it was like it wasn't a primetime game, but they were the only team on. And there was that Broncos Rams game where it was like terrible ass Russell Wilson against whoever the Rams 4th string quarterback was, and John Wolford or whatever, and it was like, oh,
was it at the kid from Virginia?
Or
Bryce
maybe
Perkins?
It was. Bryce Perkins.
It was even worse.
Yeah.
What's the motivation for the Black Friday game? Because I know for me, that was always a day for college football, though. I mean, that was like Nebraska, Oklahoma, and of course now I think it's Iowa, Nebraska. And I mean, I don't understand.
That's Ohio State, Michigan, isn't it?
No, they're Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, that's Black Friday.
Well, no, they play Saturday.
Oh, they play Saturday. Okay.
Yeah, they always play on Saturday at noon. And it just seemed odd to me, especially they're going to play that Dolphins-Jets Black Friday game. It's at 3:00. That seems weird to me.
They figure people will go shopping and come home and then need something to do, I guess. I don't know. On National Pie for Breakfast Day, you eat your pie for breakfast and then you fall asleep again and then you wake up and watch football.
Yeah, I guess. I found the whole thing odd. Who got the most primetime games?
Probably
Cowboys.
The Chiefs.
I would think the Chiefs and the Cowboys probably.
I think there was 4 teams that had 6, which used to be the Steelers. Which gets me to my point, is that the Steelers used to be guaranteed 5 primetime games a year. Maybe one of those Thursday night.
Yeah.
This year they have 4. 2 of them are Thursday night. One is a Monday night. So they got 1 Sunday night football game, maybe more if they get flexed in.
Yeah.
So getting back to what Ian said about, and this is not a knock, for once I'm not even being facetious about Kenny Pickett. It's not a knock on Kenny Pickett. It's a knock on that the Steelers have the name as the team, but they don't have the name as the players, right?
Well,
you had it didn't matter. Ben, AB, Troy, Harrison, go down the line. You know that the Steelers are not the Steelers anymore when they don't have this many primetime games. There's just not enough to draw. There's just not enough to draw people in, and all the NFL cares about is money and then image.
Yes,
but it's like money, then like image. But so, yeah.
The Chiefs have 8 games where they basically have an exclusive window, whether that's a primetime game, an international game, the kickoff game, the Christmas Day game. So the Chiefs have 8 games. I think that's the most where
and why not?
basically have an exclusive window. Right. Oh, they're the Super Bowl champs. They have Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
People want to see them play.
And you know, I think to go along with what Scarps was saying, let's also not forget that that the Pittsburgh Steelers offense averaged about 18 points a game.
Yeah.
I mean, the NFL wants to see points. I mean, it's not a secret any longer.
Yeah. So
like Houston has no exclusive slot games. They don't even have a Thursday night game, which is weird that they did away with that thing that every team had to play on Thursday night, which I thought, since I hate Thursday night football anyways, if you're going to do it, you should make every team play at any rate.
Right.
I think there was a couple other teams, like Arizona doesn't have any like single slot games at any rate.
Yeah, you're there.
Yeah. The point I was going to make was that not only do the TV networks have a pretty big say in how the schedule works out, because, you know, they get to pick their games and they kind of have to organize the schedule based on what games get protected as the 4:30 games and then who gets, you know, the primetime slots and all that. But also, to Ryan's point about the Steelers not scoring much, in those exclusive slot games, whether it's a, you know, Saturday afternoon game or a Thursday night game or whatever, let's not forget that like DraftKings is a major sponsor of the NFL now. So if you've got people that are gambling, you want them to be gambling on games that like might actually threaten to hit the over, instead of just like, you know, being like, oh, these teams, there's a team with a good defense and a shitty offense. All right, we're going to all bet the under on this one and, you know, go to bed.
You're absolutely right.
You know, you want to see some points. You want it to matter for your fantasy teams and all that stuff. So, you know, those are the teams that are going to get the night games and the single slot games.
And I would say, you know, it's also too based on market, and maybe I'm not going to explain this correctly, but like Pittsburgh market, when you look at the stats at the end of the year, the Pittsburgh market watches Sunday Night Football regardless of who's on, which is cool. And and if you look at like, you know, even Stanley Cup playoffs and stuff like that, like the Pittsburgh market is good.
I'm watching it right now.
So market is one thing, but then there's the overall market. So you got the Pittsburgh market, but then you got our other markets watching your team as well. So when it's Steelers Ravens on Sunday night, everybody's watching that, not just Pittsburgh, not just Baltimore. But then you look at it, it's like when, like I mentioned earlier, like when those names aren't there for the Steelers, who else is really watching it? Like Sunday Night Football is people watch it, but like as we talked about earlier, you know, if it's Russell Wilson versus Bryce Perkins or whatever, like nobody's gonna watch that. Like that's just the way it is. So like, you know, if you know, if your fan base isn't watching Sunday Night Football, there's a like there and you don't have enough marketability anymore, which I think the Steelers are on that other end. That's why. Look at the Jets. Of course, New York fans watch Sunday Night Football. Let's be real. That market watches Sunday Night Football. Yeah. But there's nothing the Jets had. The Jets didn't have anything, and now they get Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
And they got five primetime games. 5. So.
Yeah, it's no secret. The NFL is about marketing, money, image, you know, to hell with pretty much everything else. Earlier this week, before the schedule stuff, the Steelers did part ways with cornerback Arthur Maulet. He'd been our prime slot nickel guy. I really kind of thought, you know, this was a guy who would be here through at least, you know, into training camp. I mean, and if they were going to make a move, it would be just something simply along the lines of he got beat out by somebody else. They did go sign the young man Sullivan from Minnesota, Chandon Sullivan, and the other guy they've got there too, Duke Dawson's there too, and I was surprised. Ian, were you surprised to see this?
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, he was kind of a on the roster bubble guy to me, anyways, and the story that kind of came out was he asked for his release because the Steelers weren't willing to sign him to a longer term contract. And I mean, it's kind of weird when you sign a veteran guy during the middle of the draft anyways. So that kind of raised a bit of a flag for me. It's like, oh, they signed a slot corner during the middle of the draft. And then they went and drafted another corner. So basically on draft weekend, they added 3 cornerbacks to the team. So it was going to be a crowded room anyways. It still kind of is. If I had to pick a guy to go, I probably would have picked Ahkello Witherspoon over Arthur Maulet, just because Maulet brings you a little bit in like run defense and physicality that I don't know if any of the other guys there have. And Witherspoon would save you $4 million against the cap, and Maulet saved you like 1.8. But still, I mean, I was kind of expecting both of those guys to be gone anyways by the time the season started. So cut him now versus cut him in camp. I don't know. It doesn't make a big difference to me. They still need to figure out who's going to play slot corner because, signing 2 guys off the 31st ranked passing defense doesn't exactly inspire confidence.
No, it does not. No, it does not.
Sorry if I stole any of Casey's thunder there with Peterson and Sullivan not being Steelers, but that seems like the kind of stat that Casey Kasem just loves.
Oh, now here's a guy that loves stats.
I tell you what, Mike.
Now here's 2 guys that played for the worst passing defense in the league and are now Steelers.
But I'm told they're going to be all pros.
All pros, baby. Go ahead, Ryan.
Fuck, I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, right. Well, never mind then.
For Arthur Maulet.
Yeah.
I agree with Ian. Like, I don't know why Ahkello Witherspoon's still on this team. He fooled everybody with that late surge in 2020 or 2020, 2021.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
I said this last year that like Arthur Maulet's like my new favorite Steeler, and I remember it's because like he basically called out everybody, and mainly on the defense, and he basically was like, I mean, I've been cut like 6-7 times. I think he was with the Jets and he got cut, and he was like, and I'm just not seeing enough. And obviously TJ Watt came back, which helped, right?
Yeah.
But their defense was a lot better in that second half of the season. I know they played lesser competition, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I like that Arthur Maulet had a voice, and to me that means something.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I understand Patrick Peterson is here, and Peterson is a veteran, and then Sullivan, right?
Yeah.
Chendon Sullivan.
Yep.
They're both veterans, and obviously they have a voice. But I think there's a lot that goes into that camaraderie and that rapport. And this is out there publicly, so that I'm not saying anything crazy, but
right.
So Carlos Davis, a former Steeler,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if he's on a team right now, but he got married recently, and a friend of a former Steelers photography intern. Her name's Taylor. She does amazing work. She still takes photos on game days and any other special projects. Taylor's wonderful. She took our when we had a little session when we had the baby. She's wonderful. Anyway, so she photographed Carlos Davis and his wife getting married, and photos were awesome. And I looked at the comments, I don't know why. I usually don't look at comments, but I looked at the comments, and the first thing I saw was like who was commenting. And I started to see like a pattern that it wasn't really the top name guys you would think of. It was like Robert Spillane commented. No disrespect to anybody else, but like some of the guys like JC Austin Saucers, I think significant other commented. I'm just saying like you're starting to see like we're not talking the all pros are commenting.
Right. It wasn't Cam, it wasn't Minka.
Yeah. And not that they didn't know or didn't care, but like we're talking about like the guys that like barely made the team or just like worked their asses off to be on the team. So when I get back to this Arthur Maulet thing, like when Arthur Maulet is saying that, I think it resonates more than maybe when a Cam says it, because we're talking about a guy just scrapping his way constantly.
Yeah.
So when you lose a guy like that who's been there and sort of, entrenched himself into that and bought into that, I don't care if Patrick Peterson's a former Pro Bowler, All Pro, or the Sullivan kid. I don't care. They're not Steelers yet. They've been Steelers for 15 seconds. Like at least
Yeah.
Maulet was there. So I think that goes a long way. When you lose somebody like that, I think you lose not half the team, but you lose someone that he was close with. You know what I mean?
No, I think it's a valid point. I mean, guys, we were talking about this before the draft that in Ian, I think you might have posted that in the Slack channel about kind of the breakdown of players that make NFL rosters and the number of late round guys and undrafted free agents that still made teams was incredible. And I think a lot of it has to do with they play with chips on their shoulder because they were not thought of coming out in the draft. They were not respected. And these guys go on to have nice careers. Whereas we see far too many guys that are drafted high. They're told they're awesome from the time they can walk, and they don't have the work ethic. They don't have the commitment. So I totally agree with what you're saying, Ryan.
I'm just going back and looking at these comments, and
Yeah.
you got Robert Spillane. It looks like J.C. Hassensaucer's wife. You got Chris Wormley's wife or girlfriend, whatever. I'm just saying,
right.
I'm looking at these comments and all right, Tyson Alualu sent his best wishes as well. But my point is, I don't see big name players on this post, and it's
Right.
and I know it's just social media, but but anyway, I mean, if Arthur Maulet did ask for his release and they granted it, sometimes that's just the way it is.
Hostages, volunteers, baby.
Well, the one other
Aaron,
thing I'll say too. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say, Aaron, I didn't compare anybody, but now that you challenged me, Casey might incorporate this too. But I'm gonna think of something before the end of the show.
All right. The one thing I was gonna say that I think is a little bit encouraging with, I'll call it the new regime. I know Tomlin's still there. I know Khan was there before. Weidl's new, but they seem a little less tied to their guys than the Kevin Colbert regime was. And for people who've watched the show, I was a big Kevin Colbert fan. You've known this. I've been a Kevin Colbert apologist for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think one of the shortcomings of the later years of the Kevin Colbert era was that they had their guys that they liked and they kept them around sometimes a little too long because they were their guys. And it seems like, to me at least, this new regime is a little bit, at least in the beginning here, is willing to kind of turn the page and get rid of some of those guys, right? Like, how many interior offensive linemen have we brought in that it's like, not only is Kendrick Green gone, like Kevin Dotson's probably gone. And,
looking that way.
There was, so it seems like some of those guys that they brought in, the Maulets, the Witherspoons, the Miles Jack, Devin Bush, all those guys some of those guys are gone now. Some of them will be gone soon. It seems like the new regime is more willing to turn over if they're like, I know you like this guy, but he's not playing up to standard. We got to find a replacement, or at least somebody to compete for him. And I do like that they're not so tied to their guys as the Kevin Colbert era seemed to be, at least from a perception standpoint.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And I felt the same way. There were plenty of times when I thought Colbert was hanging on to a guy just strictly because he drafted him and wanted to maybe give him that one more year of a chance when it seemed pretty obvious it just wasn't going to happen. This seems like under Khan, they're not going to hesitate to pull the trigger a little faster in these decisions, and
or at least bring in some competition for it.
Absolutely. Right. I wasn't going to bring this up, but Berner just brought this up. Yeah, I like Vince Williams a lot too, but suggesting Kendrick Green go to fullback, what in the holy hell was that comment? This isn't pee-wee football. You don't just take a kid and say, "Hey, Billy, I want you to play fullback this week. Next week you're going to play guard." It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. And hey, I've been wrong before. Who the hell knows? Maybe he'll turn into an all-pro fullback. But I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. Did you guys happen to catch Cower on Ben Roethlisberger's podcast, which is not nearly as good as ours, but
he gets free beer. I don't know.
Total asshole. I can't believe he gets all that free beer, free booze. We're drinking stuff left and right. Nobody offering us anything.
Yeah, I saw the I saw the quotes. I read the transcript.
I thought it was pretty good in terms of some of the conversations about Super Bowl 40 and talking about Brian McFadden and the big plays that he made. And, I like that kind of stuff. I mean, because so much of the stuff we know the stories. We've seen these stories and heard these stories, but I like things like that where you hear the coach bringing up a player who maybe isn't as celebrated as some of these other guys. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
Ben's podcast is actually pretty entertaining.
He does a good job.
Yeah,
I give him credit.
Yeah.
He's a draw. He's extra, but
us large German men, we have that ability to just host podcasts.
You know what I found funny is I appreciate that Cower was candid about.
He was.
That Cower was candid about the whole street ball thing, because that's pretty much what got Cower his only Super Bowl. But also too, it got Mike Tomlin his only Super Bowl in a way. Because if Ben kept playing street ball, he probably wouldn't have lasted a long time.
Right.
As long as he did. Sorry, as long as he did. And I know we talk about people hated Todd Haley, but Todd Haley did a good job of protecting Ben. And if the Steelers had a better defense during some of those years and maybe had a little bit better luck with injuries, it would have been a little bit different.
Fair.
But yeah,
they called Peyton Manning down when he kind of gave himself
up
instead of letting him get up and complete a pass. But we're going down memory lane.
If there was a player where I was like, Will Allen was a great player, great teammate. He actually called Scarpizio. He started that, and then Mark Cabali. If Cabali's listening, he's got an alias though. If Cabali's listening, Will Allen started saying Scarpizio one day. But Will Allen, great guy, on and off the field. I will never forget that. I was standing and I heard the call and I was like, we're going to fucking sack Peyton Manning on this play. There's no way they have the protection for this. And he came and I was like, and he fell down, and the whole, and very rarely did I get animated on the sidelines, but I was like, and the whole fucking sideline was just like, he's down.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? And he threw it, and it was a first down.
Yep.
And I'm fairly certain that on that drive they scored that that was like was it not like an 8-minute drive or some shit?
Ended up being
long. Yeah.
It was just like, and it was like, and then they changed the rule, of course, that offseason.
Who was the official? Do you guys remember?
Oh gosh, I can
see. Shit.
We can look it up.
See who it was, because I remember the look on his face was like, I just remember thinking to myself, this guy knows he just fucking blew a call. He absolutely knows he just blew a major call.
And I've said this on the show many times that I believe that 2015 team was the best team, was our best chance of winning it all.
Yeah.
But it was just injuries.
It was Terry McCauley.
That's who it was.
I think he was the ref in 43 though, wasn't he too? Didn't he ref Super Bowl 43?
I thought
could have. I know he did 2 or 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he does commentary now for I think is it the Amazon? I can't
No,
remember.
he's Sunday Night Football, isn't he?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because
Yeah,
Pittsburgh's own
he's
Gene
like
Steratore does
Yeah.
CBS,
Collinsworth's
right?
like, Terry, if I get this wrong,
Ugh,
what do you think, Terry? Because if I get this wrong, I'm never going back on television again.
Yeah,
right.
Macaulay did do Super Bowl
He did
43, so
43.
he called Santonio's
Wow.
touchdown a touchdown. So, we'll give him that.
Yeah, all right, we'll give it to him. Casey Kasem, is Casey ready to roll for tonight?
Oh, we got a short show. I still have
Short
a
show
beer.
tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're filling time here because dipshit's watching some super sucker thing. Trashed out of his mind.
Casey can be here. Hold on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Casey Kasem's lubricating.
Whoa, easy there.
Well,
Casey's Coast to Coast, American Top 40. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the week that was May 11th, 1976. Ryan for Pittsburgh writes, Dear Casey. Casey, the NFL schedule unveiling is always an exciting time. Will the New York Jets finally play a Sunday night football game this decade? How many times do I have to watch the Cryboys in primetime? They're on TV more than Seinfeld reruns. Is this finally the year that the Steelers start the season at home? Yes, it is. It's good to see that for the first time since 2014, the Steelers will in fact kick off the 2023 season at Heinz Rivers Acrisure Stadium. Casey, I don't even need to look at the matchups. I don't care about trends, locations, time of game, or time zones, let alone weather or other elements. The Steelers are going 20-0. It's that simple. Plan the Super Bowl victory parade now. Once again, Casey, I'm being flippant. Chances are the Steelers will hover around 500 and potentially make the postseason. But they'll somehow claw their way to 9-8. That's right, another non-losing season, but absolutely nothing else to show for it. Casey, I'm not sure if you know this, but Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. Source? Just trust me on this one. Casey, I've been quite hard on Matt Canada, but I'm definitely doing my best to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's down to his last out, though. That being said, my sources tell me that he's been leaving no stone unturned in his search to produce a high-powered offense. I've been told he's even explored some not-so-normal practices. I don't quite know if he's called up the witch doctor yet, but I do know it's going to take some strange magic if the Steelers' offense suddenly becomes a juggernaut. Well, Ryan, we are just so blessed to have you write us every week. You are God's finest creation. Moving up one spot this week to number 15, here's the Electric Light Orchestra off their album Face the Music with Strange Magic.
Nice.
Beautiful choice. Beautiful. Jeff Lynne, ELO, tremendous. Love him. Yeah, that's good stuff right there. Off-season Casey is coming strong, I got to tell you. So much more material to work with during the season, and he's not missing a beat at all. Yeah. So anyway, I think Ben will be back next week. At least that's the rumor. Although next week it might be the
Dave Matthews cover band decides to play
right.
in Portland.
Yes,
He has to go see them.
What would a Dave Matthews cover band be called? Crash something or
Grave Diggers? I don't know.
Oh shit. Anyway, that'll wrap things up for us tonight. Thanks again to everybody that jumped on the show and joined us.
Shout out to our fans that on a random Thursday in May are like, I'll tune into your show for an hour on a Thursday.
You guys are as pathetic as we are for doing a show. You're here, but we love you. Each and every one.
If Matt Canada's watching, I do really want to root for you. I just want to say that. But Casey likes the material, so
absolutely. And I'm sure Matt Canada is watching I don't have any doubts about this.
How else is he going to get some
That's right. He
innovative
needs
thoughts?
ideas. We didn't even talk much offense tonight. Anyway, thanks everybody. Make sure, tell your friends, tell your family, subscribe to the YouTube channel there at SC Blitz, and make sure you visit the website at steelcityblitz.com and all that other wonderful stuff. So for Brian and Ian, this is Steel Dad signing off on the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by Deck Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And hey, go Steelers.
And hey, just like the band Ben is seeing tonight, the Ravens are super suckers.